You've eaten Gotham's wealth, its spirit, but your feast is nearly over.
This is not my home. It's an operating table. And I'm the surgeon. Why aren't you laughing?
From this moment on, none of you are safe.
Welcome to the Batman Book Club, a podcast exploring the Dark Knight Library. I'm your host, Ryan Lauer. The Batman Book Club is a proud member of the Batman Podcast Network, hosted by Batman on Film. Just go to batmanonfilm.com, click on podcasts, and you'll find the Batman Podcast Network that has a whole list of other Bat-related shows that also like to dive into other nerdy subjects that we all, especially Peter Vera, love to frolic about in our free time. Batman Book Club is also on Patreon. If you like what's going on with the show, you want to help support the show, keep the generators running in the Wayne Manor study, just go to patreon.com/thebatmanbc. Now, thank you for listening to episode 133, The Case of the Chemical Syndicate. Joining me for this discussion, he's no stranger to this show or a lot of things that I do involving Batman on the internet. He's the editor-in-chief of Batman on Film, but most importantly, he is the gumbo guru of Texas. It's Bill Jet Ramey. Bill, welcome back to the Batman Book Club.
Oh, I'm trying to find a way because I'm jealous of Pete Vera. He can shove Buddha in his pockets. Yeah. I'm trying to find a way to make a gumbo and get it in my pockets, and then go to the airport and try to get it through security.
Ziploc bags.
There you go.
Just a little Ziploc bag. Wear some cargo shorts that it sits nicely in the pocket. Okay. And just an idea. It's really sad that I just had that ready to go.
I've been, just beat my head against the wall trying to come up with an idea how to get it in my pockets. Now you got it.
Well, hopefully Pete listens to this
instant.
And he can give us some pointers, give you some pointers. He's a busy man these days, but he actually did say on the wrap-up episode, I think the last one, he was like, man, only when I have free time, it's reserved for Ryan Lauer and Bill Ramey. So there you go. We're in an exclusive club.
Is it true that he's working 23 hours a day, 7 days a week?
Yeah. His 1 hour is to go smoke meats to last him the rest of the day to keep going.
Okay.
So he's frolicking about it.
Okay.
I think the last time that you were on the show was back in we all had the Batman fever way back in March, and we talked to the imposter.
Oh yeah.
But man, it's just, I mean, it's you and I have podcasted a lot since then. Yeah. So it's good that we get to talk comics. Yes. We've been doing animation and live action movies and some DC news. Talking with some heavy hitters and Michael Uslan and Lee Bermeo and all that stuff on Batman on Film. Go check it out, batmanonfilm.com. And so now we're going way back for this discussion.
Yeah. Back to the beginning.
Yeah. I saw you got all dressed up as your Professor Ramey, the history teacher, for this lesson of the Batman Book Club. Mm-hmm. So I just say I don't want to waste any more time. Let's hop to it.
Yeah.
Let's talk the case of the Chemical Syndicate. Everybody knows that this was the story included in Detective Comics number 27 with a cover date of May 1939. From what I saw, looking things up, it was actually released March 30th of 1939, written by the great Bill Finger, drawn by Bob Kane, and I don't think we have enough time to list off every single thing that this story is included in Batman wise, as far as issues, reprints, trade collections, all that stuff. So we'll just skip right to which version, Bill, did you read for this episode?
The deluxe edition of celebrating 80 years of Detective Comics.
Nice. Excellent. That was a great hardcover.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I have it in others.
3 years ago.
I have it in other collections, but instead of searching it out, I knew it was in here.
Instead of going to your long box and grabbing the actual physical issue that you own.
Yes, I have one of the original ones. Yes. Yeah.
Valued now, I don't know. I've seen it range between over $500,000 and over $1 million, and 2 million. Like, I don't know what to believe other than I'd like to have it and I would sell it.
You know what? I wonder how many people have a copy of that comic book
Mm-hmm.
and have no clue they have a copy of that comic book. You know what I mean? It's stashed away in an attic in a old school trunk that's locked up that has been passed around, a couple 2 or 3, 4 generations and just never have gone through it. Because you hear every once in a while you'll hear a story about someone finding one, either that or action #1, Superman. So
does Michael Houston have one? Have you ever asked?
Yeah, I don't know if he has a shitload of he donated like most of his comics to Indiana University.
In his book, I thought he also his first book he said of like donating, plus he sold a lot to pay for it was like college or kids college or something like that. I thought something in that ballpark. I don't see if he had that one that he'd get rid of it.
He is his collection probably starts in the 50s.
Gotcha. Okay.
As a kid growing up. And so no, I don't he wouldn't have bought one himself as
Probably
a kid.
got to go to the archives and see it as an adult though, don't you think?
I'm sure I'm sure he's seen an original copy of it for sure. Yeah.
I'd enjoy that. As for me, so like you, I have that 80 years collection. There's other collections, the Golden Age paperback books and all that stuff, but I went rather simple, and we'll get into it as we get into our discussion. And I bought digitally the Detective Comics number 627 issue, 99 cents on Comixology. I think that's available on DC Universe Infinite, and I'll explain when we get to talking of why I went with that issue, and that's how I read it. Do you remember by chance when the first time that you read this book was? This story?
As a kid, DC would put together, so this is 70s, early 70s, I'm sure. So early to mid 70s. I'm still single digits years old. And they would be like these really thick, we'd probably call it like I don't know what we call it today. There wasn't it would be stories from different, it'd be a Batman book, but there may be one new Batman story in it, and then they're all reprints of stuff from way back. And so I'm sure it was in one of those that I first read the very first Batman story.
I don't think I have no recollection ever. I have no idea when I read this for the first time. This is actually one that I haven't revisited a ton, just because, spoiler alert, I think it's harder to read older comics, Batman comics for me. They cram a lot of dialogue, I think.
Yes.
In each page. And I just like all of it. I respect it for for history's sake and everything. It's just, I can start rereading come the 60s and like binge read over and over a bunch of stories. And prior to that, it's touch and go for me. So
it's the artwork didn't paint the story, no pun intended, like artwork does nowadays in comics. You know what I mean? Where you almost everything had to be written out back then, because the artwork was so primitive. Is that the good word to use for that?
Sure.
So yeah, I'm with you on the dialogue. I was reading it again this morning before we started recording.
Because I mean, you look at it, it's like, oh, this is 6 pages. This will be a breeze, and it's like, no, actually, it could take almost the same amount of time as some 20-page issues now that are just very like image, little dialogue, image. Oh, you're done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. And I guess lastly, when I asked you a while ago if you'd like to come back to the show, why did you choose the case of the Chemical Syndicate?
Well, it is, I fancy myself a um, amateur
Gumbo Guru?
Batman hit.
Oh, okay.
I'm professional at that, sir.
Yeah, that's true. You have your license on that one.
Yes, I am I fancy myself as an amateur Batman historian. I like history, and I think it was the historic aspect of it. It's the very first Batman story.
Yeah.
And it's wordy, and the artwork is very, as I said, primitive, basic. Nothing like you would get today from, like, say, the great Lieber Mayho or any of these guys working today who are fantastic. But it's a real basic, kind of cool, not too different than the Batman we had today, Batman story.
Yeah,
and I know it's been redone like 3 or 4 times. I think there's a Silver Age version, and there's a couple of newer versions of it. But I think this is the original, and it's the first Batman story. That's the bottom line.
The first Batman story. I also meant to say too that I'm gonna hold it up so that Bill can see. Remember this book? This big ass book, Batman: The Definitive History of the Dark Knight in Comics, Film, and Beyond, by Andrew Farago. They did a reprint of this, so I wanted to go just to do some, get some history context and see what he wrote and hear about it. And they have a reprint of the comic at like mega massive size. So I read this digitally, and then I read this as well, which is great. And I'm also really glad that I did that, because I could have sworn that Batman's gloves were purple, and the digital issue that I read, his gloves were blue. And I checked out another, maybe in the 80-year collection you have, I think the gloves are blue. And I'm like,
this one, they're purple.
They're purple in yours? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, then I looked up something else too, and his gloves were blue, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? I swear his gloves are purple, but in that reprint, in that big Batman book, they were purple. Yeah, I agree with you with everything you said. I'm glad that you chose this one, because of course, like, it's the first issue of Batman. It's the debut of the Batman, and it has been redone. And I'm not saying that like these are it, but a reason that I chose that Detective Comics 627 was because that was a celebration of, basically you get to number 27 in Detective Comics, they want to do some kind of celebratory nod. And so they did in 1969, there was a 30th anniversary of the first issue. So they redid it. This is called like Cry. Oh, I have it here. Hang on with me. Just a moment. I'll find the picture. This is great radio. The Cry of Night is Kill, but it's basically a retelling. Mike Friedrich wrote it, and then art by Bob Brown and Joe Giella. And then it continued with an updated version by Marv Wolfman and Jim Aparo, The Case of the Chemical Syndicate, and then also included another version with Alan Grant and Norm Brayfogle called The Case of the Chemical Syndicate. And then in the New 52, I think Detective Comics 27, there's one by Brad Meltzer in that one as well. So yes, and they've been doing redos, and maybe there's others too that I don't know that they have, but those are the ones that I've been able to track down. And so that's why I got that issue so I could kind of compare. And they actually did a really good job of updating for the times. Like, you can read that 69 story, and it feels very much of like, oh, looking back on that era, this fits. And then of course the I just call them the Aparo and Brayfogle ones from the 90s. Those fit that era really well too. So it all stems from the plot points of this original story, which in reading it like now, I definitely, of course, I can see, the art's different and how they talk is a little bit different, but it's also a little complex I think, for 6 pages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah.
4 guys in cahoots on a deal, and one of them's not living up to his end of the bargain, so he's taking out the others because then
Mm-hmm.
he would get all of their parts, and nobody else knows about this deal anyway, so he's not necessarily a suspect. But I want to
Yeah.
rewind a little bit.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And go ahead with your history here about Detective Comics as a comic publisher at this time. National Allied,
Mm-hmm.
I believe, was the sister print to Detective Comics. And so in relation to that, would you say that that's similar to kind of like how DC and like Wildstorm is that like a similar kind of relation to where, it's one overhead but 2 like different companies underneath? Is that how that usually works?
Now I may be wrong. Would be a
Okay.
great question to ask Michael Uslan.
Well, Bill,
But
special
I
guest
think,
for this
yeah.
episode is Michael Uslan.
So, but I believe that it was National, whatever it was, National
National
Periodical,
Allied.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. And Detective Comics was one of the titles, was like their flagship title.
Okay. Got it.
And once Superman and then Batman came around, they took the flagship title and just that's became the name of the company, DC, Detective Comics. So DC is named after Detective Comics.
Got it. Okay. Up to that point, from what I looked up and seen, it was known as just being basically like an anthology series focusing on
Yes.
original crime series. And so a name that, I mean, I guess like currently, if you're reading the Gotham Year One and other detective things that you've read, if the name Slam Bradley has popped up in any of those, he was he a sleuth, a detective, a crime
Yeah.
solver in the Detective Comics title pre-Batman, right?
Yes. And
Okay.
he was created by Jerry Siegel and Joel Schuster.
How about that?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Who, they happened to create this character
Yes.
no one knows much about anymore called Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
So
But
you'd almost say, so I mean, probably a lot of people listening to this podcast, me, you, Batman's our number one, but you could almost maybe even link it to, of like, if there wasn't a Superman, there wouldn't be a Batman,
oh,
because
absolutely.
year before Batman's debut, Action Comics number 1, Superman debuted from Schuster and Siegel, and that was such a massive hit that then got, you got people thinking of like, well, we should create another, which is where Bob Kane came into play. And yes, the idea, I mean, we all know it, of the idea of the Batman and what he came up with. And then it was, I think, a fellow classmate at his high school was Bill Finger. And Finger did a lot of the really important changes to the costume and the look and all of that. And then together the two constructed, which Finger, I don't know if I saw that Kane was, but Bill Finger was a very big The Shadow fan. Maybe Kane was too.
Mm-hmm.
And so The Shadow was a large, made an impression on them while creating Batman, which if you go back and you think about it, it makes complete sense. I mean, I'm no The Shadow expert, but
yeah, Zorro. There was a film, The Bat Whispers, that influenced them. But
Partners
a lot
of
of
Peril, a Shadow story that Farago put in his book. I think a lot of other people also, Michael Cronenberg on the Twitter, he chimed in right away about this. Robert Reinecke, the great Robert Reinecke, chimed in right away about Partners of Peril. I've never read it. But yeah, all that played into effect to where leading up to the Batman's debut, of being a 6-issue story inside of this Detective Comics issue that has, as the cover says, over 64 pages. 64 pages of action. And Batman was only 6 of them. And after this, he became a lot more of a bigger part of every single issue.
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right. Well, now let's break into the story then. I think the greatest thing, because I don't read this, I don't read this one too often, but opening up the pages, it's Bruce Wayne and Commissioner Gordon. So I guess you could technically say that Commissioner Gordon is older than Batman by 2 pages.
Yeah.
But still, he's older than Batman is.
Yeah, because he talks about him, Commissioner Gordon is entertaining his young socialite friend, Bruce Wayne.
Yes.
And they're both puffing away on, it's hilarious. Bruce Wayne, anytime he's Bruce Wayne, he has a pipe in his mouth.
Yep.
And Commissioner Gordon has a big cigar.
You know how it is.
Yeah.
Different time. So yes, in which then there's just the home of Commissioner Gordon, as they're both just sitting there puffing away. And just a good old language of Bruce saying, "Well, Commissioner, anything exciting happening these days?"
Yes.
And let's just get into it. What's going on there, Commissioner?
Yeah.
Phone call at home that that old Lambert has been murdered at his mansion. I'm going there now. I'd like to come along because that's what they did back then.
Yeah. Hey, there's a big murder scene over here, other side of Gotham City. You want to come with me? Oh, I got nothing else to do. Sure.
Yeah. Sure. It sounds a great idea.
And the dialogue when they're on the phone reminds me, I don't know why I pull this, like the old Three Stooges shorts. You ever notice, like when they would get on the phone, they would it wasn't really having a conversation. They would kind of like repeat what they're being told.
Yeah.
As exposition.
Yeah.
Yep. It's the same thing here. Hello, what's that? Lambert, the Chemical King, stabbed to death? Commissioner Gordon talked.
His son's fingerprints on the knife?
Yeah.
Oh, so
I'll be right over.
So I guess the guy was stabbed to death and his son's fingerprints are on the knife.
All over the knife. Yeah.
Got it. There we go. But something that's funny here is Lambert, and then it's also funny because he repeats this on the phone, and then the next panel is him repeating it, all that to Bruce, as if Bruce couldn't hear him in the first place. But he he calls him Lambert on the phone, then calls him old Lambert, and in the next, in the following pages, it's like the other characters get full names: Stephen Crane, Paul Rogers, Alfred Stryker. Lambert doesn't get his first name. I looked all over for this because I'm like, did I miss it? And so I'm looking stuff up and seeing,
and then he's old Lambert.
Yeah, proactively.
Dead Lambert.
Yeah, it was only in, I think, the Alan Grant Breyfogle story, they gave him a first name. In reading all these retreads, because even in the 69 story, he didn't get one. I don't think
maybe he was like Cher
either.
He just went by Lambert.
It's just Lambert.
He's Lambert. Yeah.
He's in the
Cher,
exclusive
Madonna, Elvis. Yeah, that's
entertainment stars, chemical manufacturers. They're on the same level.
Yeah.
One name only.
220, 221, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. So then we end up at the murder scene, and the son's fingerprints are on the weapon, and so of course he's prime suspect number 1, as we all know.
Young Lambert.
Yeah, he gets a name too. He does get a name in later the retellings of the story, so good for him. He got upgraded, but he kind of retells the thing, but it plants the seed of somebody made their way in, opened up his safe, stabbed old man Lambert, and then took off out the window that was open. And the one word that Lambert says is contract, or I guess to quote him, contract. Oh,
yeah.
I mean, gotta be, quote him exactly. so that's planting the seed here a little bit of like, we've got ourselves a murder mystery here.
Yes.
You're wondering, because at the banner at the top of that page, the first page of this story, is the Batman. You see Batman in silhouette, his wings spread. You see a little bit of the ears, and it even says the Batman by, and then Robert Kane. Interesting, because Robert Kane took full credit and then put Bill Finger as a contractor. I feel like it's been justifiably rendered now, changed. And it says even there, the Batman, which hyphen between, bat and man, a mysterious and adventurous figure fighting for righteousness and apprehending the wrongdoer in his lone battle against the evil forces of society. His identity remains unknown. Well, with that now, we're making our way, we're 2 full pages through and we see no Batman.
No Batman.
I'm wondering, where's the Batman? The questioning of young man Lambert by Gordon. He asked him, did your dad have any enemies or people who had any interest in his business activities? You got Batman still puffing away on his pipe behind him at the murder scene, as also socialites at the time were. They talked about, that's where it's planted, of his 3 former business partners, Stephen Crane, Paul Rogers, Alfred Stryker. And Gordon wants to kind of give them a heads up because another police officer says Steve Crane wants to speak to Lambert. And as police officers do, oh, you can't talk to him because he's dead now. He was stabbed in the back.
Yeah.
Which got this guy all, excited is the word I think Gordon likes to say. Bruce is still there.
He's just taking it all in.
He's just taking it all in.
Taking it all in, smoking a pipe.
Yep. And interesting choices. But we're getting the information gathered here. And by the end of this story, it's fun to go back and reread it. Of the whole, I don't know, for the time, all this adds up and makes sense, I think, a little bit. Of planting the seeds of information. Bruce is just there in the background, taking it all in. As the Stephen Crane guy ends up getting shot and murdered, and the guy who shot him takes off with a paper in his hand. Other guy on the roof says, did you get the paper? He said, yeah. And then we get the debut of the Batman.
Yes. I would go just to go back a couple panels. I do like Bruce Wayne, yawn, ho hum.
Ho hum.
I'll leave you here to finish your work. I'm going home. Like that murder just wasn't exciting enough. Yawn, ho hum. And as he's pounding the tobacco out of his pipe on the floor of old Lambert's mansion, right?
I love ho hum. Ho hum makes me giggle as dialogue.
This first shot of Batman on the rooftop, kind of reminiscent of the rooftop scene in Batman '89 a little bit.
That's where I was going.
Okay.
Which is fresh in our minds because anybody who doesn't know, on Batman on Film, we're doing, chapter by chapter. And right now we're on the Batman '89 movie. And we've talked about the debut of Michael Keaton's Batman. And I do think that there's definitely similarities to this first part. Later, I mean, that one right there. So we'll just stick to that one. I'll bring it up when we get there next. But yeah, the 2 robbers on the roof, and there's Batman behind them. I mean, now you'd see, I'm sure now, looking at this, we've gotten better art, of course, and holy shit, Batman moments in comics and stuff. But hey, now you're getting now in this story what you paid for, because this was on the cover of this comic of ooh, what's this Batman? That's the Batman. And the hyphening part is interesting because I was trying to look that up too, of when they dropped the hyphen. But on the cover, there isn't a hyphen. It's just straight up of the Batman. It's one word.
This one here, move my camera.
Yeah, Detective Comics, that cover.
Yes, for you, if you're playing at home.
Yeah,
I just moved my camera. Behind my desk is the Batman on Film logo. You've probably seen if you've seen any of our videos. And then I have Detective Comics 27 cover, big poster framed hanging on the wall. So, yes.
And I mean, and that doesn't have a hyphen in here. It's like it's broken up when they're talking about him as Batman. But
and it's also the Batman. Each time they mention it, it's in quotations, which
the Batman quote, the unquote.
I'm not sure the purpose other than it's the Batman, but okay, I'm good with it.
This fellow they call the Batman puzzles me, Gordon says at the very beginning. So, maybe it's not official yet. It's just what they're calling him, as they always say. Well, they're saying this, blah blah blah. Well, Batman makes waste of the two crooks. As we see here, he's not in a red suit. He's not wearing a domino mask, and his cape looks like wings a little bit. He's quite a specimen, this quote unquote Batman character. With a mighty heave, he sends the burly criminal flying through space. Fantastic. And he grabs the paper that the murderer had taken out of Stephen Crane's safe. And at this time is when Gordon and police arrive and just see again like a silhouette on a roof. And instantly it's the Batman. Get him. Now I think this is fun, smart maybe storytelling, in the sense of we don't get answers right away. And I mean, Gordon says, he says to the butler of Crane, that's 2 dead partners out of the 4 that have received threatening notes. The other 2 must have received them too. Let's go to, Rogers next. And we get a panel of Batman, which he's reading that paper. And a grim smile comes to his lips. But we don't get any information about what he's discovered. So it's at this point in like the storytelling that it's good. It has our interest because it is a little bit of what's it say? And then Batman speeds his car, that great unidentifiable Batmobile. Wait, no, that's just like a red. What I looked up and saw, it looked like a red, like I think Lincoln.
It's like a sedan.
Sapphire.
Yeah.
I mean, look up Lincoln ZEPHYR 1939.
I was just about to say that this story, there was no Batmobile yet.
Yeah.
He's tooling around Gotham in
an average Joe.
Just old 1930 sedan, that you would see in any of those 1930s gangster films, basically.
That's right. Let's talk a little bit then for the Batsuit, because here we're seeing the Batsuit in all its glory. I think a lot of people could say the 1943 serials, they're pretty. I think I've seen many of like, oh, they're not very good. They're bad. The suit's not good and such. I think the 1943 serial suit of Batman is pretty damn close to this.
Yeah.
Like, it's a different time, of course. It's not my favorite Batman suit, but definitely just looking at everything, rereading this one a couple times for this episode and all that. And I'm like, man, especially the way that the ears kind of, the ears sit on that cowl. I don't know, just not too far off from the 43 serials.
Oh, it's I think over that 3 or 4 year period, the ears kind of went from being like from the ear out to more, as we see it now. I'm you can't see me, but you see me.
Playing charades over here.
what we used to, the ears being on top of the cow.
Yeah. So the story's developing now, and we're catching up with the other partner, Rogers. He's learned of Lambert's death by, already, what a night. The news has already shared that he's dead. That Lambert, old man Lambert, he who must not be named Lambert, is dead. And he goes to the neighboring laboratory of his partner, Alfred Stryker. Gets blasted, and I forget what those things are called. blasted by his Stryker's servant, butler.
It's kind of like a Billy Club type thing.
Yeah,
but not really Billy Club. I know what
you and I talked about it, the Joker's 5-way revenge. Because that was used. I don't know if it was by Joker or one of the bad guys in that story, but it had the same thing. Interesting weapon used.
It's like a leather type of deal, wasn't it? Kind of leathery, those kind of things with the handle at the end.
You get popped in the head with that. That hurt.
Yeah.
Not to be trifled with. Yes, the good old sock. In which now you see, and then his name's Jennings, Stryker's assistant, carries Rogers to the basement of his laboratory, ties him up, and is about to put him in like a glass gas chamber.
Mm-hmm.
In which this guy Jennings says, "This is the gas chamber I used to kill guinea pigs to experiment with." All right. What an asshole.
Yeah.
Good to know. But now you are my guinea pig. That's like maybe some of the first instance of, yes, a different time period for comic books. You got some ho-hum, and now you are my guinea pig. It says you fiend. And as the glass chamber's coming down, what do we get? We get the great Batman come flying in. This was another part.
Yeah. Is it like the first Batman death trap scene in a comic? Even though
it's trap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not put there by a villain like we're used to when there's a death trap scene. But he does jump in, and he gets the cylinder lowers over him as well.
Mm-hmm.
And of course he pulls a handkerchief out of his, in my mind, he pulls it out of his utility belt, right? And shoves it in the gas pipe.
Yep.
And he was smart enough to bring a wrench in there with him. He grabbed, wrench just happened to be laying around there.
Yep. Grabbed it. That's Batman showing you he's got the brains and the brawn. The panel there of him as he's flying through an open transom, that made me think of, in which we just recently even talked about it on Batman chapter by chapter, of Keaton coming in at Axis Chemicals, of the wings or the cape kind of open, legs extended, kind of gliding in shot in that movie. Mm-hmm. Having just watched that and reading this, I think that to me there's a similarity there. No, of course it's not exactly it, but definitely is a Batman gliding in through a window to come into the room. Interesting part that I checked out digitally is that the background in that panel is yellow, as opposed to this reprint in the Farrago book. The background is green. What's the background color of yours, of that shot of him, of Batman gliding in?
Green.
Yours is green as well. So they did something different digitally in their touch-ups. Not a fan. Give me the original. But like you said, stealthy and smart. Batman has a wrench, breaks the glass to save the day. At this point, too, I mean, we've got two pages of story left, but they haven't shown their whole hand, finger and cane, because you'd think that it's just the assistant, in which the Batman underline greets Jennings with a flying tackle.
Jennings
takes him down and then just punches him the hell out.
He's almost gonna, is there a little bit of cussing right there in that panel? What the,
Yeah, it was coming. They were like, this is as close as we can get to cussing in the comic books at that time. So, and then meanwhile, Alfred Stryker has heard the crash of the gas chamber as he enters the laboratory. He's like, Rogers, what happened? In which Rogers says, your assistant, Jennings, he tried to kill me. Twist. Stryker pulls a knife. Has no idea Batman's in there too. And then you find out that he was in cahoots with Jennings and said, so he didn't get you after all. Well, I'll finish you and then throw your body in the acid tank below. And then Batman, of course, gets him to stop him and says, "Oh, my hand." And we get
the Rogers. You.
Yeah. Dramatic
like,
zoom in
I'm
music.
Gonna finish you off with, I'm gonna stab you to death. You. That's what that's the classic response when you receive a death threat, right?
It really is. My last word, if I get murdered, will be you, and that's what got everybody's attention. And then I mean, I love the full, Rogers of just, what's the idea? Why did you try to kill me? And Batman's like, all right, readers, just in case you haven't put it together yet. And then he just lays out everything.
When you read this, what Batman voice is in your head?
So, did you listen to the Audio Adventures podcast?
I've sampled it, yes.
I can't think of for the life of me who did Batman's voice in that. But I got a little bit of that for some reason.
Which one did Jim Gordon, Commissioner Gordon, Lieutenant Gordon?
Was Jeffrey Wright?
Jeffrey Wright voiced Batman in one of those audio adventures. One of the ones that were like in podcast form.
Jeffrey Wright did. Nice. For some reason I thought that he was like narrating. I didn't think he did Batman's voice. Awesome. Okay, yeah. There's something he talks, it's almost like a very like, yes, and actually, Commissioner. Sort of in way of talking. I don't know why I thought that. I don't know, in reading it at this point, I don't know. I got that vibe. So there we go. Jeffrey Wright, Batman, and the current Jim Gordon. It's all connected.
I almost went like, this rat was behind the murders. See?
See? I did
read it with a whispery voice in my head, but it was also had a little, twang of, the dialogue, the sound of the way people talk back then.
Mm-hmm.
It's written like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Two interesting bits of note on the page 6 there, where it starts, it's Stryker with the strength of a madman tears himself free from the grasp of the Batman. First thing of note is Batman's ears are missing on the cowl. So he feels Space Ghost coast to coast. But then another note, so this Batman or Detective Comics 627 is very interesting issue to buy digitally. I want to see it physically, what that looks like, because it totally omits Stryker's dialogue. So in rereading it, reading it in the Farrago book, and Stryker's, sure, I did it, but you won't send me to the chair for it. In which that in itself almost makes me think of Schwarzenegger and Batman and Robin. You're not sending me to the cooler.
Yeah.
But in this digital one, and I mean, I can even show you there's no dialogue up there at all. So that's weird. Guys, what are you up to here? You're changing glove colors, you're changing backgrounds, you're deleting dialogue. What the hell? Coloring's a little different too, but I mean, the rest of it kind of plays out the same. But then, and I'll let you quote this. Batman sucks. Stryker falls beyond the railing. He's falling right into the acid tank. And
he has Batman like a play-by-play. There's a play-by-play man right there with him.
Yes.
Batman punches him in the face and sucks him in the face. He's falling right into the acid.
Go ahead
for his kind.
There you go. So Batman was a murderer all along, Bill. Look at his origins. He liked to murder.
It's going to be like some Workman's Cop issues there, because that railing's not very secure.
Also, if this guy's, I guess it does say it's a neighboring laboratory, so it's not that he's necessarily going to a guy's house. But I was going to say that's a massive house. You just got a big old tank of boiling acid. and big old windows and stuff, but fitting end for his kind. And then, some of these points still along now of, Rogers turns around to say, how can I ever thank you? And Batman's he's gone. He's leaving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Classic Batman.
I was going to point out, it's like, this is our first case of someone turning around to talk to Batman, and
he does that.
He's done. He's gone. Yeah.
He does that. And then the next day, hey, Bruce Wayne, pipe back in his mouth, puffing away.
Young Bruce Wayne. Young Bruce Wayne
is again at the commissioner's house, who's just finished telling Bruce the latest exploits of the Batman. A very lovely fairy tale, Commissioner, indeed. And then here to something you just said not too long ago, and after Bruce leaves, and Bruce Wayne is a nice young chap, but he certainly must lead a boring life. He seems disinterested in everything, even murders at murder scenes.
Yeah,
he's just don't care. And then the ultimate reveal. How do you think people would have responded to this? Of like,
okay, I was going to ask you what you thought as well about this. Now, for those who probably, I'm trying to think, the kids who are reading this, then did they skip forward to the end and just look through it before they read it, and then they knew the big twist at the end? But if they didn't, it's kind of like, was it like this? Poof.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It was Bruce Wayne. He's the Batman.
No way. Yeah, I don't know.
I think it was a wow kind of moment for a lot of kids then.
Yeah.
It's Bruce Wayne all along. I thought he was a lazy oaf smoking.
He's disinterested in everything.
Yes. But he's the Batman.
He's the Batman, in which, it's played out well too. So, Bruce Wayne returns home to his room. A little later, his door slowly opens and reveals its occupant. If the commissioner could see his young friend now, he'd be amazed to learn that he is the Batman. I feel like we, being such astute comic book readers that we are, we could pinpoint, oh, you're teasing that there's a Batman, and we keep talking about this Bruce Wayne guy. Oh, he disappears. Oh, look at Batman's here. Like, we could deduce now, but at the time, it would be interesting, and I don't know. I don't know how you could now find a general reaction of someone reading that and be like, what? Because anybody reading it now would be like, oh yeah, that's Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne's Batman.
Bruce Wayne's Batman. First time. Yeah. Yeah.
I think kids are now born and they know that Bruce Wayne is Batman. It's not a secret anymore. So
I think it's become part of, through evolution, it's part of it's in DNA, in people's DNA.
Definitely.
It's just you're born knowing that.
So I think for 6 pages, it's a pretty solid story. What they do, they construct a couple of twists, and a surprise at the end that nobody could see coming in the revelation of who the Batman is. Apparently blew people's minds because, even teases of more Batman adventures next month. And as we all know, in a year's time, he launches his own comic book title, and then Detective Comics becomes a Batman title in and of itself. I don't know how much longer. Do you know roughly off the top of your head how long until Detective Comics then just became Batman? Putting you on the spot. I don't know. No clue.
I know that there were some. I think there were some covers after 27 that were non-Batman, but don't hold me to that. But it was such a hit so fast and success that the covers very quickly became Batman featured on them, and then it became a Batman title. I'd say within a year and a half, for sure.
Got it. Okay. But yeah, I don't know how much more I can say on this 6-page story, but It's fun. It's crazy to look to even just think about it now, though, as we are 83. Yeah, 83 years, almost 84 into this, and like how this little story, blew up. Like,
Yeah,
that's
think
kind of
of what
fascinating to me.
from that to you say, what is Batman today? And it's movies, it's comic books.
Mm-hmm.
Comic books may even be down the line. If you said, ask, people, how do you get your Batman?
Movies,
What
TV,
medium?
games.
Movies, games, TV, animation. Comics may be down the list
Way down the list,
of
which is
what
wild.
Batman is. And a lot of people, just wear the shirt with the logo on it
Mm-hmm.
because it's Batman.
Which, hey, I'm
But
okay with
yeah,
that. I'm okay with
mm-hmm.
that. But yeah, and especially at a time where you can kind of try and warp your mind around it, but the only other, capes and tights was just, Superman and
Mm-hmm.
Batman coming out. Whereas now, of, the long list of Marvel heroes now that are, in suits, the long list of DC heroes in comic shops and all over the place. And, but that a costumed hero would just, blow up in the way that it did. It's just fascinating to me for that time period.
It's there are some things in here. Now there's still a lot of the Batman mythos we have not seen yet. Batmobile,
Yes.
Batcave,
Alfred.
Alfred, Robin. There's not a lot of gadgets,
Mm-hmm.
if any, here. He
Oh yeah,
uses,
he's basic here.
yeah. But I mean, like I said at the beginning, it's very Batman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's, look what here, Batman, of course, he's a young socialite, but obviously wealthy. So we don't get the millionaire and then later billionaire Bruce Wayne, but we are getting the dual identity,
Mm-hmm.
vigilante. I don't want to say superhero, but costume adventure type hero that was very much based on coming from the pulps, with the Shadow and Zorro and whatnot. And we get Commissioner Gordon. Commissioner Gordon is a character as old as Batman.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of goes back to why when I said, hey, when you said you want to come on, I said, yes, what do you want to do? I said, case of the Chemical Syndicate.
Let's make it happen.
Important. Yeah, Batman, poof, disappearing.
Mm-hmm.
Before, hey, thanks, he's gone. That's a Batman staple. So
staple, maybe that was the word I was looking for, is traits, staples from the very, very beginning that still stick around.
Yeah. The costume,
not
extraordinarily different. I'm thank goodness we didn't go with the red bodysuit and the domino mask.
Yeah.
That
we've seen pictures. Not as cool.
Bob Kane wanted. Yes.
Didn't even mention yet. It was still, so anybody, of course, yellow oval is recognizable. Everybody knows the yellow oval, hashtag Team Yellow Oval. Here, I mean, there's no yellow oval, and from what I looked up, it would be 25 years until that yellow oval appeared.
Yeah,
which is pretty wild to me as well.
60s.
As much as the staple of that yellow oval symbol and sign is and stuff, and it's like you track your history, it was like it wasn't present basically just as long as it was present. It's pretty
part
equal
of the new look,
fitting of
new look Batman, right?
Yeah.
Carmine Infantino.
Yeah, it was Julius Schwartz's idea to get the new look going.
You know what?
What?
Speaking of, we've mentioned Michael Uslan a couple of times on this show. There is an article on Batman on Film from Michael about how Batman got the yellow oval.
Let's track that down. When I post this, I'll put that in a comment as
well. Check that out. And another historical note: before they started filming the '66 series, Lyle Wagner did a test for Batman, and the suit, if you notice, didn't have the yellow oval. It just had the bat logo. And so when they finally got around to, they cast Adam West, of course, and then started filming the series, they went to the yellow oval in the comics, so they updated the costume.
Nice.
To be like the comic book.
Yeah. Are you yellow oval or no?
I am most fond of just the bat, just the bat logo on the chest. Yes. But I do like the yellow oval because that's what I grew up on.
I love both. And it's hard for me to choose.
Yeah.
So I'm not answering.
Okay.
Because you didn't ask me.
I did like.
That's how I'll weasel out of that one.
I like the way it looked on the Batman Begins suit. I liked the big bat, Frank Miller looking bat on the BBS suit. And I did like what they did with it in the Batman, actually being a tool.
I know that's where I just go back and forth with it too, because I see comic art now that doesn't have the yellow oval, looks great. I see the yellow oval, it looks great. Keaton's 89 suit, it looks great. Batman Returns, it looks great. Batman Forever, the initial suit, I think it looks great.
That's a good look. That's an underrated suit, the Panther suit.
Yeah.
From Batman Forever.
But then you look at the Dark Knight trilogy, and I'm like, yeah, I love the bat symbol on those. The Batman, I love it. I'm seeing a trend here that I just love the damn bat symbol. So
yeah.
I don't have a full-on
you show me the traditional yellow oval bat symbol. You show me just show me the bat, the black bat on the chest. Batman.
Yeah. All right, I'm sold. Done. Got it.
Did you like the New 52? Was it the New 52 where you had what was the one that had it was not the 52, was it? It was
Rebirth had like a purple.
Rebirth. The purple cape but inside, but did you like the outline of the bat?
It's
the bat logo with outline with the yellow. I thought it was just fine. I wasn't a big fan of the Rebirth suit myself.
Yeah, I mean, I'd seen that figure, and I tried to get the figure of each kind of like Batman incarnation, and I've had many chances to get that one. I'm like, nah, which I think is kind of telling.
I've got two. I got actually two of them from Rebirth, but
it's
not my fave.
Not my favorite. I don't, by any means, I don't have the overreaction to it being like it is a disgrace to the history of Batman or anything like that. I think it's fine. But just not my favorite.
People have meltdowns over Batman stuff.
Breaking news, Bill. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Let's hear now some of your passionate responses to these questions. Let's hit up some favorites. Okay. What was your favorite part of the case of the Chemical Syndicate?
My favorite part, man.
Oh yeah, I know. With all these pages,
I like it when we first see Batman in the story on that rooftop,
on the roof,
and the two thugs, the Batman.
Yeah.
And he's just standing there, arms folded.
Yeah. Just what are you two up to?
Yes. What are you up to? See?
See, you robbing some houses. See, murdering people. I think my favorite part is the reveal at the end.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think I could almost see myself in that situation as a youngster reading it for the first time. Been a little like, what? Bruce Wayne, but he's smoking pipes. How is he Batman?
Because you're like me. I'm sure, especially because you're younger than me. But I don't ever think there was a period of time in my life I didn't know Bruce Wayne was Batman.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of jealous of the kids who read this back in the day.
Yeah.
Who didn't know that Bruce Wayne was Batman.
Because then maybe I would have remembered the first time I read this story.
Yeah.
Because that's when I found out that Bruce Wayne was Batman. How about Oh, go ahead.
I will say it's not because I didn't pick it because it's not part of the story, but I love the very first panel at the top of the page with the Batman, the black Batman's in the black silhouette.
Yeah, that's great.
The little, the Batman, a mysterious and adventurous figure fighting for righteousness and et cetera, et cetera. I like that.
Fighting for truth, justice, and the American way. Wait, that's not our hero. Never mind. No, this guy, see, he's fighting to stop the crooks. See, man. How about a favorite panel? Maybe you just said it.
Yeah, the panel, the bat with two thugs. I like it. Probably, you know what? Because it probably reminds me of Batman '89. To be honest.
Fair. I went back and forth on this one. There's a couple different elements. I almost said when he's leaping through the open transom, because that made me think 89. Also, when he disappears, the how can I ever think why he's gone? Because that just feels like, oh, classic Batman, and just take away dialogue, and it's like a fun little image. But actually, I think I like when he's got the paper in his hand on the roof next to the chimneys after he takes down the crooks.
Yeah.
This is like, this is just a glimpse of Batman moonlight. Still, it's Batman to me. Now, maybe they've already done it. I don't know, because I told you I've seen a nice amount of Batman the Brave and the Bold, but not all of Brave and the Bold. And I haven't seen every single animated piece of Batman work, basically because of like the new Batman Adventures and the Batman Adventures show and some Super Friends and stuff. But I don't think they've ever done the Case of the Chemical Syndicate in animation.
I don't think so.
As far as I know. Would you like to see them adapt
the
Case of the Chemical Syndicate in animation?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. I think you can take just like you can take the Joker's 5-Way Revenge, Batman 251, take that premise. You can make a whole animated, 70-minute animated film out of that. I think you could take this premise as well. And this is like a detective story. Just stretch it out, maybe add more layers and whatnot.
This is a
Sure, I think it could work.
I do too. This is a 6-page story that in its retellings, it's been retold at least 4 times, and those 4 stories have basically been normal issue length. So they've expanded the story those other times, and it's worked just well while keeping the core of the original story. So same characters, basically the same kind of shenanigans of what's going on, and then with the reveal of, well, why did they do that? And it was Detective Comics number 27 in the New 52. That was the Brad Meltzer. Brian Hitch was the artist on it, and that was one where Stryker has a very interesting look throughout, and then at the end he falls into chemicals, and then the last panel, much like the 89 movie, you have a hand coming out. So they're teasing in that, and then they're teasing in that one that's how the Joker was created. But the main giveaway there is they've expanded on the story, and it worked perfectly. So I think, and with the look, and granted, we have one image of this Caped Crusader series. Maybe they could adapt an episode like that.
Yes,
that'd be awesome. But that's my long way of saying, like, I agree. Yes, let's do an animated adaptation.
With you.
So, Bill,
100%.
You have any final words to share on the Case of the Chemical Syndicate before we wrap up here?
Well, I'm glad that it exists.
Yeah. Same. I think we're all
wouldn't
in
be
agreement
doing
there.
wouldn't be doing this right now if it.
What would I do with my life if this didn't exist? I'd have a lot more money.
Question. Yeah, well, yeah.
I think
That's
that's
all
a
I
good.
got.
Okay,
I'm glad it exists.
glad he
Yeah.
exists. You know what? I'm gonna say I'm glad it exists as well. Holds up relatively well. 83 years later. It's track down if you can Detective Comics 627, and I just rather than like tracking down the individuals, because that's just got 3 retellings of the story, and I think they're all done really really well.
This the one has the most recent, I believe, update there at the end
in the 80-year collection. Yeah.
I
mean, that was pretty good too. Detective Comics.
We're done. Yeah.
Might as well. That one's a little bit shorter. That's not a full length 22-page story, but I mean, still hits the same beats. So yeah, track those down and then you can compare and contrast because I don't know. I think it only proves actually, I think the original story is strong enough that all these years later they could retell it and update it and it still works. So
I'm sure we'll see it again at some point,
Yeah,
but yeah,
sure.
Let's see it in animation at some point.
Bring it on. Let's see it. So, Bill, thanks for coming back to the show, talking comics.
Anytime.
I know that I really had to twist your arm to get you on here to talk Batman comics.
Well, and you got those pictures, so
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Got those files.
Yeah. So thanks for agreeing to just come back on the Batman Book Club. If somebody doesn't know, why don't you go ahead and plug away? People can follow you and all that.
Go to batman-on-film.com.
Okay.
That's really it. And from there, you can find social media, everything we've done on Batman on Film over the last almost 25 years. What am I talking about? Moving to a quarter of a century of existence here.
Holy moly.
Which reminds me, if I ever told you the story of how I started Batman on Film on a web TV in 1998?
Maybe once or twice, but I think you've always said those are BOF podcast exclusives.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a good tease. There you go.
Yeah.
Go to batman-on-film.com and you'll find out how it was created on web TV.
Yep.
There you go.
For sure.
That's
all I got.
Go there because I also have a great catalog of stuff that I've been able to do on Batman on Film with reviews, interviews with like Lee Bermejo and Sean Murphy. Got to sit and talk with Bill too, the great Michael Uslan. Check all that out on Batman on Film. But if you want to follow the Batman Book Club, you can do that on Twitter and Instagram at the Batman BC. Go to the Batman Book Club YouTube channel where Pete and I are traveling through the road to no man's land. We actually put up a new episode last week, so check that out there. If you want to support the show, there's a variety of ways you can do that. Number one, like I said at the top of the show, patreon.com/thebatmanbc, tpublic.com, type in TBBC for the Batman Book Club. You can get merchandise, t-shirts and pads of paper, onesies for your little ones with the Batman Book Club logo created by Justin Kowalski on it. But if you want to support the show and you don't want to spend any money at all, that's 100% a-okay. Best thing you can do, easiest thing you can do, most impactful thing you can do is rate and review the show wherever you listen to podcasts. So whether that's Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, anything, just rate and review the show because the more reviews it gets, the more help spread the word. And as we all know, the word is panic. So for Bill Ramey, I am Ryan Lauer. Until next time, read my Batman.